If you knew what your true yes was and what your true no was in all areas of your life, would you be able to choose faster and easier? What futures would those choices create? Everyone is capable of connecting to their bodies in a way to have more exuberant and joyful living now and in the future. Now, here is your host of Choosing a Different Future with Siris.
Hi, everyone. My name is Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo. You're here on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope you're having a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And this show is all about having the different resources, tools, ideas, stories that let you know that you can choose beyond what has been expected or projected at you. And today's topic is 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. Going to be really, really yummy. I'm going to be tapping into my experiences as a life coach, as a body and relationship coach. I do a lot of family work where I work with children and families around the world so that each person in the family can feel heard and seen, and they all can thrive instead of maybe the focus being on any one person in a given moment, so that we can actually make sure that everyone's needs are being met, even with the chaos that is families. And there's going to be some questions that were sent in. Thank you so much for the questions that were sent in. I want to make sure that those of you that would like to connect with me individually or in classes know about some of our upcoming events. My website is empoweringlightlanguage.com, and we have an awakening class coming up in June. So you can book your calendars, book any travel plans. If you are traveling to Charlotte, North Carolina for that, you can book that now. That's going to be Saturday, June 24th. And you can also live stream it from anywhere that you are in your home if you can't make it in live into Charlotte. We also have and that one is, the information for it is at empoweringlightlanguage.com/living and dying. And then we have the Soaring Beyond Definition group. It's a private complimentary group on Facebook. And so hopefully you're good to be on Facebook. You can just set up an account just to access the group if that's what you'd like. But it's a group where we connect over soaring beyond what has been projected or expected of us through community and question prompts. We have some fun videos in there. There's videos that also assist you to tap into your own gifts so that you can soar with more ease. So check that out. The group is called Soaring Beyond Definition. And then we have our Expansive Energies group. It's a group that's a membership group, also off of Facebook and on Facebook, where we meet through Zoom to talk about self-care and actually I provide group therapeutic energy work sessions twice a month to our group members. It's about 45 minutes. And this month's theme is everything goes. Everything that needs to go is going, and the rest can stay and nurture, and we can have fun with that. So yay, everything goes. Every time I say that, a different image comes up. This time it's like Indiana Jones Temple of Doom when she sings a song at the beginning. It's like anything goes. What's beyond anything? It's really everything that you've been wanting to get out of your body, out of your reality. Bye-bye. Let's do it. And then we also have our monthly Being a Different Possibility for Families calls. That one you can check out and register for at empoweringlightlanguage.com/events. Our last event was on organization clearing and making space for the new. We've also talked about love languages for families, self-care, and this month's call on April 24th is about planting seeds for communication success. And the May call is thriving with your family. Are you living or dying with your family? And so this is a support group. These are to give you strategies and tools, resources to support children and families. And that's if you have them yourself and you'd like to have more ease with that, or it's for you, those of you that work with children and families in any way, you're definitely going to want to check out the resources and tools in those events. And you could even get the replays from the previous ones. Just let us know in that link that's on our events page. Thank you so much to those of you that sent in some questions. We had a question about where can I find Megan Walrod's article that was mentioned in her episode last week. So Megan was our guest last week. We were talking about ditching yourself, break free from codependence. And her article is called, Why Do I Feel So Guilty When I Prioritize Myself? That is actually available on the inspiredchoicesnetwork.com homepage. If you go to that page and you go to the right that says articles, or depending on if you're on a desktop or phone, but you go to the articles tab and it is featured there. And it's called, Why Do I Feel So Guilty When I Prioritize Myself? Really consistent with the themes of our discussion today. Thank you, Megan, for an amazing chat last week. And hopefully you have checked out that episode. If not, it's all on our podcast replay page. And let me know if you have any questions if you can't find that. It was wonderful to talk with her about her journey in how she went from ditching herself to actually having her voice and feeling empowered to say yes to the things that were a yes for her. A lot of questions were sent in, and a lot of comments were sent in about the how to use sexual healing to create a great life episode. Wow. So first, thank you, everyone. A lot of vulnerable comments. I'm not going to read all of them, but I did pick out a few that seem to encapsulate a lot of the themes that I heard in all the different messages and questions. So one person said, I felt incredibly sad listening to your how to use sexual healing to create a great life episode. I realized that I'm so removed from my sexuality, having any passion or fun with a partner. I'm so removed from it, I don't see entering it again, besides not meeting anyone I'd be with intimately. So thank you for that comment and that vulnerability. I'm going to read a couple and then I'm going to address all of them. Another comment was sent in, I'm so lonely and I don't see how I can even start to take steps to explore this about myself. I hear you, my friend. Thank you for posting that comment. Another one, I was raised to take care of everyone else first, and it struck me while listening to your episode how much that has cut me off looking at and exploring myself for many years. Wow. Yeah, I get it. And so, first off, it sounds like for all of those comments that by listening to the episode, it made you aware of where you have some blocks. And yes, it can be sad to realize that. And it can also be such a great gift because now that you've recognized that there's blocks there, that there have been a place where you've cut off your receiving. And if you haven't checked out the episode on when I've cut off my receiving, or no, when I find it hard to receive was the name of the episode, check that one out. But the other thing, this is good news. As much as it might be hard to see it that way right now, it's actually good news because by you identifying those blocks, you can create a plan to take action to start unblocking yourself now that you have this awareness. If you didn't have the awareness, you would have gone on blindly creating your life, really having it be something that isn't as fun for you, isn't as joyful, isn't as nurturing and expansive for you as it could be. So, yay. And we can look at where you're functioning from unconsciousness, where you have shut down, where you have gone the la 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 la, it's not there. And you put your hands over your ears or you shut yourself out into like a little shell. This is a good thing. And so one of the first steps I would recommend, because there's a lot of messages that were sent in about feeling overwhelmed about where to even start. First, really listen to the whole episode because I gave a lot of tips in there. Do it in pieces if you need to. Give yourself breaks and do clearings if you do energetic or verbal clearings for yourself. Run different body processes on yourself. I'm willing to give y'all private energy work sessions if you'd like to help move this through as you're receiving this information and more awareness. But first step is tap into this for yourself. For those of you that are making this about having a partner or exploring your sexuality with somebody else, that's actually not the point of that discussion. We talked a lot about really having this for you and how you use this for your health, your business, your relationships. But that includes your relationship with yourself, with your body. And so starting to have those intimate moments with yourself, and this isn't just masturbation. It doesn't have to be masturbation. For some of you, your bodies are craving touch. And it doesn't have to be that type of touch. I don't have any problem with it. I think masturbation is very healthy and wonderful. And for some of you, if you're not quite ready for that, you don't feel comfortable with that idea, what if you gave yourself a hug every day? As silly as that may seem, our bodies love. And for those of you listening to this in audio later, I am giving myself a hug right now, and it is really yummy. I squeeze on my thighs and my knees. I go in a little ball and like squeeze like in yoga, like and I'll do like the happy baby pose, and then I'll scrunch up in a little ball and give myself a big old hug and squeeze. I'll just be sitting at the computer sometimes and I'll give myself hugs. And for those of you that are already doing touching yourself and intimacy, and you're still judging yourself about it, one, I would recommend to have a consistency and schedule with it. You can set up reminders or things like that for yourself. But on top of that is looking at, well, whose point of view is it that it's less valuable to have touch and intimacy with yourself, and it's more valuable to have it with other people? Like, where is that coming from? Because that's one of those things that are often projected at us since birth, certainly into when we start puberty onward. And that's not necessarily the best perspective to have when you're really trying to rediscover yourself and know what you truly desire, and then institute it and create it as a part of your life, as a part of your relationships. So making a partner a prerequisite for you tapping into your sexual energy and for you to be intimate yourself is a great way to start creating a codependent dynamic. If you make it about everybody else and you're starting to rely on them to be empowered instead of to know that you can be empowered yourself, and then they can just expand it. It's not that you're not willing to receive from them. It's just not that you're going to make it so it has to be with somebody else for you to have this. It's not your best choice. So start with you and really listen to the rest of that episode, because from a lot of the messages, some of you stopped because of the overwhelm. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, like there's this mountain, and at the idea of rediscovering this aspect of you, rediscovering the sexual energies again, there are many, many steps that you can take so that you can start building momentum for yourself, and then over time get to those bigger steps. But many steps count. All of it counts. Give yourself credit instead of being like it has to be the all or nothing, the whole mountain, the whole shebang, whatever that mountain is to you, or nothing. And that all or nothing mentality is a great way of stopping you from having some momentum and traction and feeling a sense of success and progress with this. And it's absolutely available to you. It's just a matter of you choosing it. That's why the show is called Choosing a Different Future, not being aware of a different future. We're all aware of a different future, and we can become more aware, as many of you have expressed. But choosing a different future is a whole other beast. And I invite you to do that one step at a time, baby steps. Okay. All right. Thank you for those comments, y'all. If you have any questions about that, let me know. Send me any messages through my email at empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, today's episode, 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. So what are the signs that you're in codependence? What if relationships could be a co-creative process where they could be mutually beneficial for everyone involved? We talked about this a little bit before. So in order to have your fantastical voice and be true to yourself, it's important to know how to say no. And yet it's one of the hardest things for us to do sometimes, especially if we haven't had great models and how to do it. I certainly didn't. In order to respect and love yourself and those you'd like to have true loving or intimate bonds with, this is an essential skill. And note, this is a continuation of the discussion that we had called Bridging the Gap Between Codependent and Co-Creative Relationships. You check out that episode. It was great. It isn't required for you to listen to that episode, but that episode will complement what we talk about today wonderfully, in addition to the episode we did last week with Megan Walrod on stopping ditching yourself so you can break free from codependence. It would be beneficial for you to listen to it. Go ahead and bookmark it for yourself. But in this episode, I will share some information so that you can increase your awareness with knowing when to say no, and the words and actions you can choose so that you can say no with more ease to create beyond codependence and into a co-creative and expansive future. Would you like that? Would you like that? Please. There's always more. There's always more. I've grown so much in this area of my life, and yeah, I also get that there's so much more that I can explore. So it's time for our first break of the show. We're gonna dig into it when we come back. You are listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, with myself, Siris, on the Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we will continue to discuss 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you.
Are you a subject matter expert? Are you here to share your expertise with an audience waiting to hear from you in only the way you can deliver? Are you ready to have your voice amplified across the airwaves? Inspired Choices Network has a global radio platform streaming to millions of people across the world. Professionally produced and supported by an accomplished team every step of the way, you can broadcast from anywhere in the world, knowing your voice matters, and we ensure it is delivered with ease and efficiency. Eager to hear your message, the world awaits. Contact us today to become an Inspired Choices Network radio host. Email becomeahost@inspiredchoicesnetwork.com.
This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Hi. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. And before we went on break, we started to talk about the comments that were sent in based on some of the other episodes on codependence and on tapping into your sexual energies to create a great life. Thank you again for those of you that sent in those comments and questions. Also, please connect with us on the ICN app on any smart TV or podcast platform you can think of. We are there, and subscribe to our show. And our show is brought to you by Activated Liquid Collagen from LifeVantage. Liquid collagen is a different, better collagen supplement. Get real results that you can see and feel. Check out the Activated Liquid Collagen and LifeVantage's other natural plant-based products to address anti-aging, gut health, energy, and more by going to www.sirisrivas.lifevantage.com. And for those of you that are interested in sponsoring our show, just reach out to me at empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. We would love to have your support. So one of the things that when we're going into saying no, you have to actually know what your no is. Do you know what your yes and your no is with your body? So our discussion today is going to assume that you know that. And if you don't, check out our other episodes on that. I have videos on my YouTube channel as well that talk about it. I'm not going to use our time today to explore that, but there are different ways of how to tap into what your yes and your no is with your body. And that's really, really going to be important so that you can actually be guided by that inner knowing and what's going to work for your body now and in the future. And the key thing is that it's not just about the verbal, it's also about nonverbal ways of how to say no. I remember when I was, I think like 12 or 13, who remembers Cosmopolitan magazine, like the Cosmo for women, right? And I think it's still going on. I don't know. Do people still read magazines, like paper magazines? I know that there's online magazines. I had the actual, oh no, it wasn't Cosmo, it was Red Book. It was Red Book. And it was 1,000 Ways to Say No. And I remember reading that when I was about 12 or 13. And just reading the title alone, I remember thinking, wait, I can do that? I can say no? That's allowed? I mean, how many of us haven't even considered that it's actually okay to say no, that given us ourselves permission to say no? That reading that title and recognizing that they were women and people around the world reading this article that obviously needed this, because I needed it at the time. I was very much about saying yes to family, saying yes to friends. I was everybody's go-to, even at 12 and 13. I was really mature for my age, and I had a lot on my plate. I had a lot of responsibilities, some of which I'm going to talk about in our upcoming episode with my mom on April 28th, the Limitless Azúcar episode on raising children with unique needs. We're going to continue that discussion that we talked about before about when worlds collide. And we're going to talk about how I was raised versus how my siblings were raised. And one of the things that is a part of that is they didn't explicitly told me I couldn't say no, but I learned it. I had eyeballs. I was watching everybody around me not say no, even when they probably should have, that it probably would have created more to do so. And so some of the things that I'd like to make sure that we're clear on is there are a lot of purposes to saying no. And I think a lot of us lie to ourselves and assume that saying no is, of course, going to dishonor or disrespect somebody else. It's rude to say no. It's going to be dismissive of someone's feelings. And that's actually not true. There are many other purposes to saying no beyond that. And I'm not even sure if most of the time it is that, but a lot of us have been told that, especially if we were dealing with people that were manipulative, be it emotionally or otherwise, people who had their own hidden agendas. And they were trying to get us to do a certain thing that would going to work for them and not necessarily work for you and them. And so one of the purposes that I'd like to start off with and talking about is saying no can give you time to get clear on what you actually want, on what's actually true for you. And so I love going and saying like, oh, give me a moment. I'll be right back. Let me sit with that. I'll be right back. Or, let me go use the bathroom real quick. I'll be back in a minute. And I go to the bathroom and I ask questions about myself with my body. Hey, is this going to work for us? What would it create if I did this? What would it create if I didn't do this? Versus immediately feeling like in that moment, you have to answer. Are you willing to give yourself a moment, pause? And Megan Walrod mentioned this in the episode last week as well. She said that giving yourself those pauses can be super, super powerful. And I completely agree with her on that, because it can give you a chance to actually choose and respond congruent with what's going to work for you and the people involved. Because you don't want to say yes, and then it builds resentment and bitterness, or they obviously can tell that you actually didn't want that to begin with, or you're complaining the whole time as you're doing the thing that you said you were going to do. You can avoid all of that by really checking in with what you truly desire. What do you really want with that situation or with that person? Have you considered that? How many of us are actually saying yes or no, for that matter, all willy-nilly, not really being sure if that's what we really mean in that situation? This whole idea of like, oh, maybe or no meaning yes, and this confusion around that, it gets confusing on so many levels. And it also leads to my next purpose for saying no. It gives you space or a physical buffer before providing a response. And this can be really beneficial for safety. It can be beneficial if you're in a new environment, like let's say a new job, a new position, a new relationship, and you're trying to feel out, well, how do they communicate here? How do yeses and nos work here? That kind of a thing. It actually, and then sometimes I have actually avoided being hurt by being willing to say no in different ways. So giving a physical buffer doesn't actually mean no, like actually saying the word no. So You can do the thing I mentioned about the bathroom, or hey, let me go ahead. Oh, I have this call right now from my friend. Like, how many of you had that emergency call set up when you were dating? I still do that for certain meetings too. It doesn't have to be just with dating and relationships. If I'm on a first, second, or third date and I'm still getting to know somebody, I'll have somebody text me or call me being like, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? And I have it prepared for a certain time into a date to give me a chance to have my own space, check in with what I want. How is it going? How am I feeling about this date? How am I feeling about this meeting with this person? Do I need to use that as an exit? And a lot of people, if they're focused on pleasing everybody else and worrying about being rude or lying, they're actually putting themselves into not just uncomfortable situations, but potentially dangerous situations. It's a slippery slope. So it's really important for you to give yourself permission to give yourself that physical space and give your a chance to get clear on things. I'm gonna look at the live chat right here. Thanks for being here, y'all, with the live chat. Yeah, some comments complaining the whole time. Once I realized I was doing that, I now use that as an indication of when to walk away, even if agreeing to do something seemed like a good idea at the time. Great. That could be a signal. It's not like, oh, I've said no, I regret it, or that wasn't actually what my body and what my awareness was telling me. I have that information now because now I'm complaining. So as soon as I hear complaining, I agree. That's an indication for me as well. Thank you so much for that comment. We have Winter Valkyrie in our live chat. Thank you so much for that comment, because that is a great indication. And it also tells me, hey, it's okay as you're learning to tap into your awareness more and more and follow that, so that you don't have those moments of like, oh, shoot, that wasn't my best choice. How did I get here? Oh yeah, I chose this. Oops. You can always choose again and again and again. You can always find those moments to be like, you know what? I know I said this, but now that I'm sitting with it a little bit more, now that I have more information, this is what's actually going to work for me. How about this? How can we reroute this? How can we reform this so it works for everybody? And it may just be about reworking it. There are some exceptions to this, but more times than not, you can say no in a different way than you've considered, even after you've said yes unconsciously. Okay. It's really, really key, because sometimes you can use these different tools that I'm going to mention, these different examples, to not say yes. So some people, they know that as soon as you say yes to them, they're going to obligate you. They're going to guilt trip you. They are going to flagellate you and punish you for even considering saying no. So finding ways of doing that workarounds are great. So an example that comes to mind that just even recently, I love practicing this. I practiced this in the mirror until I got super elegant. It became super easy, like breathing, to say it. This is a really simple but powerful phrase. Are y'all ready? The phrase is, and y'all, some of you might have heard me say this in past classes before and in past events. The phrase is, I'm not so sure about that. If you don't want it to get into an argument and someone's really combative and they're really pushing their point of view about you, instead of being like, no, I don't agree, and then they feel like they have to defend and argue more and no, you can just be like, I'm not so sure about that. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of it that way before. That doesn't mean you agree with them. That isn't a yes. But you're actually subtly saying, no, I'm not with you on it either. But it's not so strong of a no that they'll feel like they have to keep pushing at it, unless they just have that personality. And we all know people that have those personalities where they feel like they need to keep pushing and pushing and pushing until you say, you're right. And I can tell people they're right just because they need to hear it, even if I don't agree with them. And that also can take some practice, but it's a beautiful gift when you're willing to do it. And man, did I need to practice that, especially with my dad. Woo! my dad needed to be right. And now he doesn't need to be right all the time, because I told him he's right so many times when he needed to hear it before, that I've dropped the rope. There's no tug of war with him anymore. Just drop the rope, people. Sometimes dropping the rope is one of the best gifts you can give yourself. You don't have to expend the energy that way. And by learning these different ways of saying no, you can actually then be clear on where you'd like to expend your energy instead of the back and forth, ping boom, and not the fun ping boom that we've talked about before with the ooh flow, but the ones that is like really draining and annoying, and then you come away from those interactions feeling really frustrated. Another comment in the chat, working on using, that's one way to think about that. I love that phrase. That's one way to think about that. Ah, nice. Yes, and there's other ways. Yes, that's the subtext of that phrase. I love that. Thanks so much for chiming in and bringing that in. Yeah, so for our audience is adding in some other additional ideas for how to say no. When we come back, we're going to take another break. And so when we come back, we're going to talk about some additional ways. This is so much fun. You are listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, with myself, Siris, on the Inspired Choices Network. And when we come back, we will continue to discuss 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. We'll be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you.
How wonderful would it be to carry your favorite Inspired Choices Network host with you throughout your day? Well, now you can. Inspired Choices Network now has its very own mobile app. Our free app offers live streaming shows, along with thousands of podcasts and TV episodes. Our shows cover a wide variety of topics. Whether you're waking up with us, carrying us through the day, and taking us to bed with you, we're always here for you to enjoy. We're easy to find. Just search for Inspired Choices Network in the Apple App Store or Google Play Store.
This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. And so just so you know, our show is brought to you by Activated Liquid Collagen from LifeVantage. Liquid collagen is a different, better collagen supplement. Get real results that you can see and feel. Check out the Activated Liquid Collagen and LifeVantage's other natural plant-based products to address anti-aging, gut health, energy, and more by going to www.sirisrivas.lifevantage.com. So before we went on break, we were talking about some of the purposes of saying no. Why would you bother saying no when you talk so much about saying yes to what your yum, right? To the things that actually light you up. They are both needed. We've also talked about in past episodes about the living and dying body process. The living being what you add to your life to create more, what you say yes to create more. But the dying is what you let go of to create more. And a lot of us have not been willing to let go of certain people, certain things, certain concepts, judgments, poison, toxicity of thinking that is actually going to create more if we were willing to do so. And so that's another purpose for saying no, is what if it could create space for you? What it could be, what if it could be a kind of self-care that you haven't been willing to truly embrace and discover in the same way that you have before. And by you choosing it and you being a great example and model of it, then who is watching you? I'm looking at you out there, educators, medical professional, parents, caregivers. Hello, who's watching you? I'm watching you, that are actually looking to you to know, how do I navigate this world and respect myself as I'm respecting other people? I had to learn that by saying no, I wasn't disrespecting other people. I was actually being honest with them and respecting them. And so when I'm saying yes, when it's actually not truly a yes for me, when it's actually not something that is going to expand my world, it's going to nurture my body, it's going to plant seeds for the future I really like, it's going to be a part of the type of relationships I would truly like to create and have, then I'm disrespecting that other person, anybody else that's involved in that. And as soon as I got that, I was like, shoot, well, I don't want to disrespect other people. Okay, what if I started practicing all these different ways of saying no that doesn't have to actually be the word no, that would be kind, to me and them. So let's get into it some more. I have some comments in the chat here, in our live chat. Yes, models, grew up around a lot of quote unquote martyrdom, do things for others, but make sure everyone knows the sacrifices you have made. So that's the trickiness. That actually gets you into a point of a comment that was sent in from one of our listeners. Thank you so much. Where they asked, how can I say no when and also, let's see, what's the wording here? Yes, how can I say no without it being that I'm guilt tripping the other person or making them feel bad about me saying no? Well, how are you presenting it? There's a lot of different ways to present a no, and each person needs it done in a different way. Some people need it to be done non-verbally, where you walk away, where you don't answer their phone calls, and that's the no. As much as I do not condone ghosting, like I usually give people a heads up. Hey, I'm not going to be available for the next couple of days. Or, hey, if I don't respond as quickly as I usually do, it's because I'm busy with this and this and this. So I give them a heads up, which is different than ghosting, where there's no context, no sense of like what happened. Why is that person not responding to me? And yet that's a way for me to let them know that and give them a heads up on that I probably won't be able to deliver on whatever they'd like me to deliver on, whatever they're asking for, that there are other things pulling at me or other commitments that I have, including, hey, my commitment to myself. But this is one of those things that is something to be aware of, because guilt tripping, when people are talking about, oh, I've sacrificed so much for you, I've given so much for you, and so you should do this for me. And it creates this obligation. You let that happen. You actually have to agree to that contract. I think the signal is going a little bit wonky. We have a storm here, so I apologize if it's throwing off the signal. Hopefully y'all can hear me and see me well. You actually have to agree to be a part of that emotional manipulation contract. And if you didn't sign on the dotted line, if you didn't say yes to that, then you don't need to take on their agenda and those energies that they're projecting at you, that you should feel bad about it. Yes, it's easier said than done. It takes a lot of practice. I basically was functioning perpetually, living out other people's expectations of me for most of the first 20 plus years of my life, until I realized, wow, this is actually locking up in my body. My anxiety around this, the pressure about this is affecting my health, my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health. And I'm not able to then show up for the people that are counting on me, because I am people pleasing so much over here and over there and over there, that how can I actually be here with these people, my clients, my friends, my family, that weren't doing the emotional manipulation? So again, it gets back to self-care. That is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. And just because someone's trying to guilt trip you doesn't mean they actually get to make you feel guilty. You get to choose, hey, they're trying to guilt trip me. Identify it, call them out in your head. You don't have to say it outside, but be like, oh, wow, this person's trying to manipulate me right now. Just by you acknowledging that can go a long way to you not being at the effect of that emotional manipulation. All right. Some other examples. I'm going to take a break and give some examples given some of the purposes of the no that we've talked about so far. I talked about, I'm not so sure about that. I'm not so sure about that. Or our live audience member mentioned, that's one way to think about it, right? That's a good one. I love it. I'll think about that. That's something to consider. You're not saying, oh, you're right. You're not saying, I agree, or absolutely, for sure. Those are all ways of saying yes, by the way. You could be like, oh, no, I'm not so sure. Perhaps, maybe. Let me go to blank place, blank activity first. Let me get back to you. Another great one as well, when someone's trying to get you to do something that you're already getting, as soon as you even think about it, your body's like starting to contract, you feel really heavy, you may start getting a little worried and like anxious about it. These are all signals that your body's saying, this is a no for you. This is a no. All right. Are you willing to listen? If for some of you, your body moves backward away from the person, away from the idea of choosing that. Are you listening? Are we listening? So, another thing I love to do, it's trickier now because not as many people use paper calendars as they used to. I used to have a paper calendar. Now doesn't have enough space for me and doesn't have the flexibility with all the travel that I do for my business and for how I do living now. But back in the day, I would say, hey, well, let me check my calendar, which wasn't with me. I would intentionally leave it somewhere else. Let me check my calendar and get back to you. Now I still say that, even though they know that my calendar is always available. So instead of saying, oh, let me check my calendar, I say, I'm waiting on a couple of people to get back to me, which is often the case actually anyway. So I'm waiting for a couple people to get back to me about some upcoming appointments. As soon as I know what's going on with that, I will get right back to you around that. I won't leave you hanging. And then it gives me a chance to check in with me, check in with my body, my inner knowing. What is it going to be like for me if I do this? Truly, let me look at all the aspects of it. The time, the energy, the travel, if there's travel involved, the moving pieces, the interpersonal aspect of it. What are the logistics? Is all of that going to work for me? Versus, of course it's going to work. A lot of you that have messaged me, you are using positive toxicity on yourself. You are actually being toxic to yourself with your positivity, and it's blinding you to what's truly there. Sometimes it actually, yes, it's going to work out. Wonderful. Are you seeing everything? Are you seeing all of it? And this is from someone that was raised by someone that's super rose-colored glasses all the time. My mom, for those of you that have met her, you know this, right? You might have even picked up on it in our other Limitless Azúcar call series, right? We've done videos on YouTube and on Facebook. She's done 2 calls with me on Worlds Collide. We have the one coming up on raising kids with unique needs. And it's such a gift of hers. This is part of how she was able to soar beyond so much stress, so many things that would have broken other people. My mom is one of the most resilient people out there, and part of that is her positivity. When it hasn't been necessarily her best choice or what was going to work for her all the time is sometimes with her relationships and her friendships, where she tries to see the best in the people, their potential, everything that is wonderful about them, and none of the things that are potentially problematic or hurtful or disrespectful toward her. It would take a lot of data points before. Now she's learned. She has her eyes super wide open now. Thank you, Ma, wherever you are. But before, she would use that positivity almost to blind her to what was really there, to what was possible with each person and with each situation. And that then can be a recipe for you to be resentful, for you to judge yourself later, for you to be like, how stupid was I that I did this, that I dated this person, that I took on this job project, whatever that is. Well, if you're willing to have more awareness ahead of it before you make the choice, then you can reduce those moments where you're wondering, oh shoot, what did I do here? We still have those moments. I just had one even earlier this week around my car and fixing my car and all these different things with the mechanic or not mechanic, and so frustrating. And it's definitely way, way, way less of the moments of frustration and bitterness than before. Certainly my 20s was like the peak time of resentment and bitterness and frustration, especially interpersonally. All right, lovely people. Okay, it is time for our next break. Wow, time flies. So you are listening to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, with myself, Siris, on the Inspired Choices Network. And when we return, we will continue to discuss 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. We will be right back.
Most people haven't been taught how to listen and partner with their bodies in order to create lives that include clarity, pleasure, ease, and connection. Tuning in to Choosing a Different Future with Siris, you'll receive tools, inspiration, and resources on how to use your awareness of bodies and energy to your advantage. Siris is a family and child coach and therapeutic energy worker who will guide you to get clear and acknowledge what's brilliant, magical, and a gift about you. This is the Choosing a Different Future show with Siris. To participate in the program, join the live studio audience in our chat room at inspiredchoicesnetwork.com. Connect with Siris through her website, empoweringlightlanguage.com, or send an email to empoweringlightlanguage@gmail.com. Now, back to the program.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. So I'm Siris Raquel Rivas-Verdejo on Choosing a Different Future with Siris. And today our show topic is 1,000 ways to say no and break free from codependence. And before we went on break, we talked about a lot of different purposes for saying no, why you would say it. And I get that for some of you, you may have some other reasons to say no. One of the ones that I really like to mention as well, that I don't want us to leave today without discussing, is by being willing to say no, at least giving yourself permission to say no, you actually to get clear on who and what is truly willing to spend time with you and nurture you and respect you and honor you having your fantastical voice in all areas of your life, and who isn't, who is really all about them, and they make it a us or them situation. If you say no to them, then they immediately do make you feel guilty, or they remind you of all these things that they've done for you, as if it's tit for tat, it's a quid pro quo. And that's not actually someone that respects you, that honors you. If they're constantly reminding you of these other things that they've done for you, discounting probably the immeasurable things that you've been there for them about and that you've supported them through. And so if you're willing to acknowledge the gift that you are, if you're willing to acknowledge what you're contributing to other people and recognize, hey, I'm allowed to say no because I know all these different ways in which I've been showing up and having these people's backs, or where I contribute to this business, where I contribute to this company, if it's work, I get this. This is my contribution. I am a gift here. So I get to say no sometimes. It's not always about yes, 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 because I want to make sure that when I say yes, it's truly, truly a yes, and that I'm including what it would create for everyone else, including myself, in the equation of my life and in my relationships. So that's super, super important. This really allows you to avoid resentment and frustration, avoid burnout, reduce burnout and overwhelm. There's a lot of burnout going out there, given the messages that you all have been sending me. And so one of the things I'd like for you to look at is look at where you are saying no and why. That's why I devoted so much time today to the purposes of saying no. Like, you may recognize that you have been saying no in different ways, after this discussion and actually be consciously doing it versus doing it to push people away, to avoid doing the things that will actually create more. Some of you are using no to put up walls and to keep yourself behind those walls to cut off your receiving, of love from people, respect from people, adoration and attention, so many things. And so look at this. Where are you saying no? And why are you saying it? And is that actually working for you? Consider adding some of these new ways that we discussed into your linguistic and metalinguistic inventory, where you're aware of how your words and your actions are affecting your life and affecting those around you. They are the dance steps that you are then getting to create and choose with somebody. Is this the type of dance that you want to dance, or is it a matter of switching from a tango to a salsa to a bachata, which I was dancing last night? So much fun. I miss bachata. I need to do more of that. So much fun. And then you also get practice being held accountable. It's if you have a buddy, if you have a friend that really honors your fantastical voice, that doesn't guilt trip you, that really wants you to feel empowered, if you have a coach that does that, if you have a therapist, if you have a teacher, a mentor, a family member that they are like, hey, we got you. You get to say yes and you get to say no. And I want you to have more of your yum, more of your ooh ah flow. So if you have somebody like that, what if you checked in with them when you're giving yourself those spaces to know what you truly want, so that they can facilitate you and hold you accountable to having healthy boundaries, to respecting yourself, and to be taking pride in your choices. Because one of the things that I was getting from a lot of the messages sent in is that a lot of you are feeling really bad and are judging yourself of your previous choices. And I get that. And you continually badgering yourself and punishing yourself is actually not great and healthy for you, and is actually sabotaging your future happiness, your future success. It's taking you away from you being on the path to having more of that. So I'd really love for you to look at this for you, so that you can break free from codependence, where you can break free from where you are functioning from people pleasing and not including yourself in the equation of your life. And we're going to be continuing this discussion in future episodes. Next episode for next week is listening to children's bodies and energies, part 2. And so what are children's bodies trying to tell you? Children's bodies are constantly sending us messages. Their behavior, their words, or their lack of words can be a doorway for us to walk through to get to know their inner world. They are deeply, deeply connected and tapped into their bodies. So if we are willing to lean into our inner knowing and partner with our bodies as we engage, play, and communicate with them, we can better figure out what they require. What if it could be easier and more enjoyable than what you have ever considered before? For those seeking a greater understanding of how to decipher the needs of their children or the children they work with, this will be a crucial conversation for you. And so in that episode, I will tap into my experience as a family child coach, a speech language pathologist, and learning behavioral specialist, and continue to the discussion that we started with listening to children's bodies and energies, part 1, and discuss what children would tell us if only we would be willing to listen, so that we can empower them and receive from their magic. There are so many things we can discuss with this, and children are very aware of codependent patterns. I certainly was as a child. I was very confused by them. I would see where the adults in my life were saying yes when it was hurting them. And it hurt me because I cared about them. Maybe this is relevant to you. So this upcoming episode where we're listening to children's bodies and energies, it's also about us listening to our inner children. We can still continue our journey of healing with our inner child, and also be an invitation to a different possibility with any children that we either care about, are raising, or are working with. And if you'd like to participate in that discussion, I can't wait to have it with you next week. Until next time, everyone. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Choosing a Different Future show. Siris returns Fridays at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. Mountain, and 7 a.m. Pacific on InspiredChoicesNetwork.com. Until then, keep choosing what will work for you and your body, your own unique way honoring what will work for you.